You are listening to the Average Pundits podcast on your favorite streaming platform.
Hi everybody and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League, and we have today a Tottenham Hotspur special. There's a lot to talk about with Tottenham at the moment, so it was only right we went and got the right man for the job to come on the podcast today. As always, I am joined by my co-host Reese, and we are very delighted to announce Patrick from the Views TV official YouTube channel. How are you doing, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm good. Just start with my strap line, which is what's happening, people. It's your boy, Patrick Tyrant. When you see the T, see the P. When you see the P, you know, it represents T. Let's go!
Fantastic, mate. Reese, we need to level our game on that. We need an intro.
It's kind of natural.
Yeah, let's do it. You know, let's go. Let's do this. But nah, thank you for having me on, boys. I checked out your channel. You guys are doing good stuff. It's a nice mix of everything. The fact that's a Liverpool and United fan got me a bit, but but nah, I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on as well. And as we said at the start, Tottenham Hotspur at the moment, there's a lot to talk about in the world of football. It's crazy, but Tottenham Hotspur right now, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know, JOSÉ Mourinho has left Tottenham Hotspur. We'll come with you straight away, Patrick. Initial thoughts, the man's gone. Did you expect this?
I expected him to be sacked in the summer. Unfortunately, to be fair, if I take it back to the beginning to add some context to my answer, I was quite happy when we appointed JOSÉ. I had to see Poch go, but I felt like it was the end of his cycle. And as you know, it was disappointing that Poch didn't leave with a trophy, considering we were so good in the Premier League over a 2-year span. Obviously, we did so well getting to the Champions League final, but we just couldn't cross that final line. We'd been to so many semi-finals. We got to the League Cup final in his first year. We lost to Chelsea. So, Poch did so many wonderful things in terms of elevating the stature of the club, making sure we were considered a serious club again, bringing through players. You know, there were so many positive stories out of Poch's tenure, but unfortunately, he didn't win a trophy. So when we appointed JOSÉ Mourinho, I know it was a bit chalk and cheese, but the fact that he was a serial winner, had won at every club he's been to, I really thought, yeah, we're showing intent. We've gone out and got a proven manager. Let's go and do this. And I thought, you know, JOSÉ, we kind of knew we had sacrificed a bit of our footballing style and so on, but I thought that it would guarantee trophies. Unfortunately, the first year was a bit hit and miss. We had a lot of injuries, but he managed to get us. He navigated us to 6th. I don't know how. So that was a decent, season considering when he took over, we were 14th. This year in the summer, we added quite a lot of players, some good, some bad, but overall he was backed. So I thought we would have a real go at it. I didn't think we would finish first or second because in my opinion, Liverpool and Man City are much better. I didn't really take into consideration Chelsea, so to speak, because even though they've got a good squad and they added a lot of players, I thought it would take them quite a while to gel. And obviously under Frank Lampard, I didn't really take them seriously. And then I thought Man United would be there or thereabouts, which they are. So I thought we would get into the top 4 this year. And if I'm being honest, since November, since we hit the top of the league, we've been really bad. We've been awful. So I could see it coming, but I didn't think he would pull the plug because for me, I thought he would keep him for the cup final, knowing that that's what we got JOSÉ in to do, is to win a trophy. No matter how ugly it is, he usually does that. So I was quite surprised, especially considering it's 6 days before the trophy that we brought him in to try and win. But it makes sense. And if it was me, I would have pulled the plug as soon as we crashed out to Dynamo Zagreb because that was awful. I mean, we got battered in North London derby. We were spineless against Arsenal. If you can't get your players up for a game like that, there's real questions that need to be asked. And then after that, the Europa League being 2-0 up, and no disrespect to Dynamo, they're not a great team. They're almost like a D list. You know, if you put the status of the tiers of the teams that were left in the competition, we should have knocked them out. Again, it was a spineless performance. There was no direction. JOSÉ looked like he didn't want to be there. We crashed out 3-0. For me, I would have pulled the plug then. But I think Levy kept him in thinking, you know what, we're in a cup final. JOSÉ's here to win trophies. This is what he does. Let's see if we can get better and, things will turn. And they hadn't. So, yeah, he had to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I think Reese as well, it wasn't necessarily a shock. I mean, we were kind of anticipating it based on some of the earlier episodes that we've been doing on the Pundits. But I mean, whenever you see the title Jose Mourinho sacked, it's always going to turn a few heads, and it's like, oh wow. I mean, I don't know about you, Reece. I'll come to you. Is Jose Mourinho the manager he used to be? I mean, obviously, me and Patrick are the similar kind of understanding of having Mourinho as the manager of your club, and kind of remembering what he did at Chelsea and Madrid, and then you kind of have to watch it fall a bit, and you're like, is this the same guy? I mean, what do you think?
Well, yeah, he's definitely lost his magic, hasn't he? You know, he's lost that Chelsea. He's lost that Chelsea touch. You know, he's had his hands in different bags, and now he's got orange fingertips. You know, it's kind of he's definitely slipping away from being that world class manager that we once knew. He's definitely, you know, like, I mean, you look at how he's performed. I mean, as a Spurs fan, Patrick, do you think that Jose lost the dressing room a bit?
100%, 100%. I mean, you could kind of, without even knowing too much about what's going on, even as a neutral who doesn't watch the games all the time, you could kind of tell the body language wasn't right. Players weren't giving their all like they used to. You could kind of see it. But when Hugo Lloris came out after the North London derby and he kind of said, there's a division in the dressing room, things aren't right. If you read between the lines, you could hear it. You could see it there. The guy had come out and said it. I think Hugo Lloris was a bit too passionate after the loss. I wouldn't say passionate, so I think he was a bit too honest, so to speak, or too forthcoming, and he pretty much spilled the beans. But you could kind of tell we were hearing lots of murmurings and rumours. The fact that he kept, you know, I mean, Gareth Bale was in scintillating form up into the North London derby. Yes, he wasn't good in that game, but then since then he's been completely ostracised. He's got like 2 or 3 minutes then, which to me doesn't make sense because he was doing really well. I mean, players can have a bad game. It doesn't mean they need to get thrown out. But I think what you're seeing there is a Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy brought Bale back. Jose Mourinho wasn't keen on him. Jose wasn't happy that he didn't come in fit. It took time to find his legs and all this and that. And then once he had one bad game or one bad half, he's like, cool, get out. And you've seen how Jose treats players. And yeah, he's not the same guy. He's not the same charismatic guy that he used to be. The thing is, I'm a massive Jose fan. So it kind of, well, I'm a fan of the old Jose, not this current Jose, if you get what I mean. This is Jose 4.0 or 5.0. He's so many levels below what he used to be. But I was a massive fan of Jose. I loved his charisma. I loved his win at all cost mentality. I loved how he used to get players riled up. Everyone, even though he was a Chelsea manager, I still actually loved the guy. I thought he was a fantastic man for the sport, his box office. But you don't see that same guy anymore, man. And the fact that, you know, I mean, he's been around for 20 odd years. You can't manage people how you used to. You know, if you look at all the players he's fallen out with over the recent years and how every time he's at a club, he ends up getting sacked and the way he gets sacked, you can kind of tell he's not that guy anymore. But we all sacrificed all of that, all of what we knew, hoping he would win us trophies. But it seems that we've got Jose in his 3rd year. So we fast forwarded year 1 and 2, where you get the trophies in good times, and we only got the bad Jose. So I just think that he's done now, man. I think domestically he's done. He might get a job at international level. He might get a punditry job. But I think anyone that takes him in as a manager now, they're crazy. Knowing if you look at his recent form, it's not good. It's not where it needs to be.
You mentioned in there, obviously, Reece brought in losing the dressing room, and you mentioned some of the players that he's famously fallen out with. And in recent times, I think the ones that made the most headlines fairly recently, you've had Paul Pogba, you've had Luke Shaw, Tanguy and Ndombele as well.
Dele Ali, don't forget Dele. Dele's a big one.
Massively Dele as well.
Yeah.
And these are all really promising, talented guys. And we've been seeing them do it in the Prem and beyond, wherever they've been for quite a long amount of time. But do you think it's a case of personalities clashing, or do you think is it any other external reasoning? Or
I just think Jose, I hate to say it, but I think he's a bit of a dinosaur. I just don't think he's adapted to the modern game. Players now, they're completely different. The same way you used to look after or treat a John Terry or Frank Lampard is not the same way you can look after a Dele Alli or Paul Pogba. I just don't think he speaks the same language as these young guys. I mean, he even said it a few weeks ago. He goes, Lampard as a 23-year-old was a man. You know, the 23-year-olds I got today, they're brats. So again, you can kind of see throwing shots and barbs at players. And when you keep criticizing players in public, that's never going to go down well for you anymore as well. They don't take well to that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a shame. But it also looks like Jose just doesn't know how to handle these like type of flair players, you know, your Bales, your Delis, your Pogbas, your Tanguy and Ndombeles. He just doesn't really know how to manage them. And I would say, I mean, even Luke Shaw, we've seen for me, Luke Shaw's been the best left back in the Premier League this year, like hands down. But the guy couldn't get a game under Jose. And when he did play, Jose was mugging him off, saying, "Oh, Luke Shaw had a good game." But it was his body and my mind and all this kind of stuff. And you could kind of see the guy was low on confidence, wasn't playing. But we know these guys are players. We know they've got the skills and the capabilities. But the guy's sucking the life and the confidence out of these guys. So, yeah, I just think there's that it's like there's a time lapse or time. It's like, yeah, he's just not, he just doesn't fit with the modern player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before you kind of mentioned the kind of poor form of Spurs in the last couple of games. Obviously, the last 5 games, only 1 win, and that was against Aston Villa away from home. Obviously, lost at home as well to Manchester United. I mean, at the moment as well, like looking at the other stats, like the goals are coming from Son and Kane. Kane's got 21 and 13 assists. Son's got 14 and 9 assists. And below that, you see maybe Gareth Bale's got 5 in the Premier League season. Lucas has got maybe, I think 4 assists.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing else other than that. You're right. And it just goes to show, I mean, to be fair, I think Jose lucked up with Harry Kane and Son. It's not what he's teaching them. They're just, they're born to do it. Kane is essentially a gunman. You give him a chance, he's going to score 9 times out of 10. Son the thing is, Son's been on fire the first half of the season. The second half, he kind of looks, I don't know if he's worn out. I think it's a bit of both. He's burnt out, and he also, in my opinion, doesn't look like he wanted to play under Jose. Son's a professional. He's always going to give his all, but you could kind of see his shoulders dropped. I mean, his interview after we lost to Man United, I think it was, I've never seen Son that broken. I've never seen him that low. He's like the happy-go-lucky, Mr. Personality, Mr. Smiley. The guy, like, he wanted to slit his wrists. So it was just, I just think he sucked the life out of the dressing room, man. And, in a sense, Ryan Mason hasn't got any credentials. Ryan Mason is only 29, but anyone's better than Jose right now. So, it's a big shame, but I just think Jose, he had to go. He had to go.
Do you think Kane stays this summer?
I hope so. I think for me, it's the question I get always asked, and it's like the $1 million question. And from a selfish standpoint, of course, I'd love Kane to stay at Spurs forever. But I understand why these mumblings and murmurs are coming out, because as a club, we've let him down massively. Daniel Levy's let Kane down. He hasn't really basically brought in a personnel to back Kane and to basically improve the squad to the level where it needs to be. Kane's always said he's happy to stay at Spurs as long as he sees progress, as long as he sees us competing. This year, we definitely haven't competed. Yes, we was at the top of the league for a spell. We looked really good. And then since then, we've been, since we lost to Liverpool, I think after we beat Arsenal 2-0, and then we lost 2-1 to Liverpool at Anfield, we've been atrocious. And our form has been so bad since then. But going back to your question, I think he stays this year because of the pandemic and because no one can really afford to pay 150 million for a guy with 3 years left on his contract. If it wasn't for the pandemic and it wasn't for Corona, you would really see people already knocking at the door. You would have already started to hear, mumblings, but I haven't really heard anything concrete. And I don't really think there's any suitors other than Man City. Where does he really go right now? And even Man City, Pep's come out and said they're not going to go and spend crazy amounts of money in the summer. I don't know if he's, just playing games at the moment because he doesn't want too much attention on him. But because of everything that's happened and clubs haven't got that money, I think he stays. If things don't improve next year, and with only 2 years left on his contract, then yeah, I think he'll walk if, people really start putting in serious offers.
It's going to be interesting because obviously he is hot property. Everyone would love to have Kane at their club. And he is, he is Mr. Tottenham. He's Mr. England. He is the guy who I think all fans, no matter who you are, who you support in the Premier League, you have to admire him. He gives you no other choice other than to admire him with his output on the pitch. And he's exactly the kind of guy that you want to be taken forward into this League Cup final, which is coming up very soon. I'd like to know your early thoughts on that. I mean, obviously you haven't got Jose there. Are you feeling confident going into that? It's going to be a tough game.
I feel a lot more confident knowing that we don't have Jose at the helm. I hate to say it because obviously you want to back your team regardless, but I feel a lot more confident knowing that, you know, it was getting to the point where, you know, I'm Tottenham through and through. I watch every game, every minute of every game, but I was getting to the point where I was always saying to myself, I'm not going to watch next week's game, or I'm not going to watch. But obviously, as a fan, you always end up doing it anyway. But it was getting to that point where I was like, damn, I don't want to watch this anymore, man. There's no energy on the pitch. There's no cojones. There's no attacking intent. There's no flair. We're trying to sit back and play a low block, but we haven't got the defensive personnel to do it. It's just boring, you know. And yeah, I feared the worst against Man City. Obviously, tomorrow will give me a better indication of how we're going to play because, you know, Ryan Mason's taking us for the game against Southampton. So we'll see what he does, who he starts. We've always got a chance in any game. Obviously, it's touch and go whether Kane's going to be ready. You know, Kane had the ankle injury. He's not going to be risked tomorrow. We'll see if he makes it on Sunday. If Kane plays or if he's fit, that definitely gives us more of a chance. It's a tough one. I mean, to play Man City, they're the best team in the league by a country mile, one of the best teams in Europe. So it's always going to be tough no matter who they play. My only saving grace is that they've got a tough game tomorrow against Aston Villa. And then they've also, well, it's not a tough game, but it's a game they need to win to cement, you know, that Premier League #1 spot. And then a couple of days our game, they got PSG in the Champions League. So Pep will also have one mind on that because PSG is a serious team and they're going to want to try and win that. So even though Man City have got two teams, it's going to be tough. We've always got a fighting chance, but obviously they're definitely the clear favourites for me, if I'm being honest.
I think with the League Cup final as well, what's really interesting to point out is that I think it's almost become a bit of a meme recently. Whenever Pep seems to be on like a real run of form in a cup, then randomly he'll just do a really weird team change. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, and really weirdly. And then when they go out of that cup, you think, okay, yeah, they're fighting, they're facing a good team. But then you look and think, hang on a minute, why has he made several of these changes?
Yeah. I think Pep sometimes he's his own worst nightmare. You know, he's such a tactician. He's such a good footballing manager. But sometimes I think he overcomplicates the simple things. Just put your best team out. We've seen Pep do weird things, even in Champions League games. You know, we've seen him at knockout stages do really weird things. You're like, why did you just not play your best team and get the job done? Like, even when we played them 2 years ago and we beat them 5-4. We drew 4-4 on aggregate, wasn't it? But they beat us 4-3 at one game and it's 1-0 the other game. The second game, he made a really weird team selection, and it ended up biting him in the arse because we went through in the end. So it's a strange one, you know. You just never know with Pep, do you? Like, you know, they always laugh and banter about never put a Man City player in your fantasy league team because you never get a game. You know, you put Gundogan in, you put Sterling in, you put Foden in, and then all of a sudden they get dropped. Or Pep will bring them on for 2 minutes, so you only get 1 point. Rather they don't play if he doesn't start them, type of thing. So it's a strange one, man. We've got a chance. It's going to be tough. Yeah, I hope, you know, the underdogs have their say. I just hope, like, because I've got a friend, he's a Man City fan, and he's like, don't worry about it. You haven't won the game. We're going to give you the cup because we're focusing on the league and, you know, and the Champions League. I was like, you know what? We'll take it. You know, we're hungry. We're scavengers right now for a trophy. We'll take it, man. So, you know, fingers crossed. But yeah, it's going to be tough though. All jokes aside, Man City, it's almost the worst team to play in the final. Let's just hope they've got their eyes on, you know, the Champions League semi-final, and we can kind of sneak in the back door kind of thing.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned, you know, managerial, talking about Pep Guardiola, the cup final. If you win the cup final, what do you think happens to like the managerial side of Spurs over the next couple of months, like over the summer?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because you want Ryan Mason to do as well as he can. But it's funny enough, it's great that you brought this up because I was saying that to my friend today. Is that we don't want him to do too well though, because we don't want him to get the job long term. Like, you know, I love Ryan Mason, he's Spurs through and through, but we need a real manager to come in the summer, like a quality manager. You know, you're looking at Nagman, he's probably our #1 candidate. Brendan Rodgers' name has been thrown out. I don't know how realistic that is because obviously he's on a long contract at Leicester. Would Leicester want to, you know, let him go? If Leicester make Champions League, I can't see him leaving anyway. If they don't make the Champions League, that could be that could pose a number of questions for him as a manager. The fact that they've missed out 2 years in a row when they should have made it. And then you've got obviously other managers. But yeah, if Ryan Mason does really well, like we win our last 6 games and he wins the cup, then you've got to look at it and say, his name should be in the hat. But realistically, over the course of a season, no disrespect to Ryan Mason, I'd rather a proven manager take charge of Tottenham Hotspur. You can't see us go from Poch to to JOSÉ to Ryan Mason. It's a bit, it's a bit of a downward spiral, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if I could just intervene here, I think me and Reese were having a bit of a discussion about Tottenham managers and who could potentially come in. If I give you two kind of big superstar names, a bit of a tough one on the spot. I'm going to give you Allegri, and I'm also going to give Nagelsmann. So a nice young up-and-coming manager, Allegri with the experience. If you had to potentially go for one of those two, both guys which have a lot of things thrown around about their names right now and where they're going to go, who do you think you'd pick out of those two?
Nagelsmann, hands down, 100%. He's young, he's hungry, he wants to prove himself. I know they say he hasn't won anything, but the fact, look what he took Hoffenheim from a mid-table, mediocre, Bundesliga team, qualified them for the Champions League, then obviously taken over RB, and he's done fantastic there. He's made them a name brand team in the Bundesliga, and they're a serious outfit as well in the Champions League. The guy's young, hungry, full of energy. He understands the modern player. He's got great philosophies and tactics, plays on the front foot. Looks like he gets the best out of his defense as well. And the key for me as well, that he does well on a budget, but he also improves players as well, which is what the kind of Tottenham model. We're not going to go out there and spend, millions and millions. So we need someone that's going to look for youngsters, improve what we've got, but obviously also play attacking football and try and take the game to the other team. So for me, I think Nagelsmann is the guy.
He kind of fits like the model that you were talking about earlier. You know how you said like JOSÉ doesn't know how to speak the modern language. He's falling out of play with like Dele Alli and Pogba, the flair players, right? I think he obviously Poch was the one that brought this young Spurs team, took them to the Champions League final. Nagelsmann's probably that Poch, but maybe 10 times better at this point.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's why for me, he gets the job, because obviously it'd be easy to say, oh yeah, you give it to Allegri, he's proven, he's this, he's that, but I'm not sure if he will translate to what we've got and how much money is he going to want to, basically, don't get me wrong, our squad does need an overhaul. We do need to get rid of some of the deadwood, but a manager on his level is going to come in with a lot of demands, and he's going to come in and want this and that. And also, I just think Nagelsmann is basically, for where we are right now and what we're trying to do, I think he's the perfect fit.
And I mean, with Nagelsmann, if Nagelsmann was the one to take the job, obviously the massive elephant in the room, ESL, the big Super League. Do you think that then kind of shows that he's in sort of agreement with the Super League, or he's willing to take this on as a role, or what do you think that means for him and that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think he would just come in knowing that he's the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. For me, I don't know. Does the Super League even happen? Is it really going to go ahead? Is this a ploy from the Big Six to try and take back some power from the league and UEFA? And basically, sometimes you feel that the Big Six feel that their voice isn't heard because, for example, if I take it back to the beginning of the season, all the Big Six wanted 5 substitutes this season because of COVID and everything that's happening, and obviously the short turnaround between games. The rest of the Premier League said, it's not fair if you guys have that. You've got better squads, you've got better quality. It will give you an advantage. And they voted against it. So that already got the Big Six back up, because they're like, we're playing in Europe, we're playing Premier League games, we're doing this, we're doing that. We feel we need more subs to maintain our players and so on. So they also feel that they're not getting a fair share of the revenue, considering the Big Six are the guys who pretty much bring in most of the TV and the viewers and stuff like that. So I feel that, I mean, obviously we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, because it's a shock that this even came out the way it did on Sunday night. So none of us really know. It's a bit of speculation, but I feel that I don't really believe that these guys think this will go ahead. I think it's just a ploy to try and pull some of the power back. But as a manager, you just come in and take the job and then just see how it unfolds. But I don't think if he comes in, it means that he agrees with it. I don't think many people agree with it. I mean, you've heard Poch come out, Pep come out. Everyone's being a bit coy, but they're all pretty much, if you read between the lines, they're all saying that they don't agree with this model, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, me and Reece were only saying before this, even the players now, I know Rashford was a big one today, Henderson, I saw Luke Shaw as well. There's a lot of people now who are coming out and they're erring on the side of caution.
Exactly.
But they're saying what they want to say.
Yeah, exactly. They're being very smart and diplomatic about it. But like I said, if you read between the lines and you understand, you can clearly see where their head's at. They've got to be careful, because at the end of the day, they're still employees, aren't they? They've still got to go out and play the game and, ply their trade. But yeah, you kind of get, I don't think anyone will be for it under this current format. Don't get me wrong. There is the Champions League and the way that things are set up, of course, there's always a way to innovate and make things better, but you can't make things better if it's a set, basically it's an invite only type of for foundation. You've got your top six in England and, your other founding fathers, as they call it, and no one else can get in. That doesn't make it fair, does it? So that's where they're looking at. I mean, when the bombshell first dropped, I thought it was basically, a Super League and that's it, and we will pull away from the Premier League. Then it came a bit more clear. It's almost like a new Champions League. But then we're hearing, obviously, the Premier League saying they're going to boot everyone out. UEFA saying that their players can't play international games. So there's a lot of threats and there's a lot of stuff going on. So we've got to see how it unfolds and see what happens next, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, UEFA and the FA in particular have made their kind of position on this extremely evidently clear.
Yeah.
And I think, like you mentioned, I think it will be a lot of give and take. There'll be a lot of reasoning. But I mean, we're even seeing earlier on today, I think Boris Johnson made a small statement regarding it, or was rumored to have made a statement regarding it. And it's when the Prime Minister's trying to intervene with this kind of thing, it's got to be big. So I don't think that we're going to hear the end of this for a very long time.
Yeah, no, it's going to go back on. It could be a while. I mean, they're talking, they were quite ambitious. They said they wanted to start this in August. I don't see how that happens because it's just going to be wrapped up in league back and forth and to and fro's. I can't see it happening anytime soon, if I'm being honest. We know the big six have showed their hand. They've shown that they want a change. When you get prime ministers and politicians chipping in, it just takes it. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? Should they really have a say in sporting events? It's a bit strange. But then also at the same time, UEFA came out and said that they will throw out all the guys from the Super League who are competing in the Champions League and Europa. But they've then since backtracked and said they're not going to do that. So there'll be a lot of this threats. And then as things go on, we'll see. I mean, already I'm hearing, just before we jumped on here, I'm reading that one of the big six from the England is now, basically they want to pull out. And they've seen the backlash, they've seen the uproar, and they're not as certain on their stance as they were before. So we're going to see what happens. I mean, I think by next week, we'll have a lot of a clearer picture of what's going on and where things stand.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I was say, it definitely is raw. I think there are rumblings about Abramovich is the one getting cold feet at the moment.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? So already, it's only, day 2 or day 3 of it? We're at day 2. And already you're starting to see people, pulling away or trying to distance themselves from such the negativity. I mean, you've got the American owners, your FSGs, your Cronkies. Who else is an American owner? There's one more, isn't there? But those guys.
The Glazers as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Glazers, yeah. So you can kind of understand where they're coming from because in American sports, it is quite franchised. You don't see relegations. You don't see promotions. It's pretty much a set format in the NBA, the NHL, NFL, and then obviously you go into like a playoff system. So maybe from their point, they don't, but I don't think they get it. They own these teams, yes, they're businessmen. They don't really understand what's going on. If we put these guys on a spot and really ask them to name their squads, could they do it? I don't think they could. So they're just so disconnected from football. It is literally a business for these guys, and that's it. And that's the shame. And we're seeing it from the decisions that we've seen over the weekend, and obviously what's going on now. You can clearly see it's just a profit organization for these guys, and that's it.
Yeah, I would like to end on a kind of a solid note from all three of us, just to get our opinions. I will start with you, Patrick. My question being, to kind of round this off, is an apology to the fans and returning to normal, is that enough now? Because I mean, all the fans now, we know what's been going on. We know the discussions. It's all out in the public. But would you say that an apology and a return to normal is enough to kind of have the fans forget and we can move on?
It's a good question. I mean, it will always leave a bitter taste, don't get me wrong. But I think if they did come out with an apology and almost like, maybe show a bit more care to the fans, maybe, I don't know, lower season ticket prices, or make things a bit easier for guys to get teams, or try and basically show the fans that they care about them. I think that would start. And then, as we all know, football or anything is a fickle industry. There'll be something else going on in a couple of weeks or months and people will forget about it. Of course, it's going to leave a bit of taste, but I do think if everyone's turned around and said, you know what, we've got this massively wrong, we're sorry, I think, it would, before we know it, things will go back to normal and fans, we would forgive and forget, so to speak. But we're always going to be a bit more erring on the side of caution now because of this. And we're always going to know as well that these guys will try at any moment to pull a fast one on us, so to speak.
Yeah. What about you, Reese? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think I'm definitely in agreement with Patrick. You know, with the entire kind of a campaign to try and give football back to the fans. You know, obviously it's a working man's game. It's always been that way until the last decade or two. So you look at that, look at the trends. Obviously, they've got this card in their back pocket. The big six are always going to try and pull this out. Maybe some people have to step down. Maybe football gives maybe the power's given back to the fans. Maybe we have a bit more of a say. Maybe there's a union or whatever. But yeah, the apology is the least of what we will expect from all six clubs. And just make sure that the fans are priority number one, because I think it was reported on Sky Sports. He spoke to one of the top six owners, and he said that the profits and business is number one, the football and the fans is number two. So I think
there you go. That pretty much sums it up. I mean, and that's always been my gripe with Daniel Levy. It always seems that trophies and success comes after profits and pretty much the allure of the club. Like it's always like Tottenham Hotspur is a brand now, and it's a shiny stadium, and we're doing these tours of Asia and tours of America. All of that comes before the football for me, and we can clearly see that with his footballing decisions. So yeah, like you're saying, Reese, football needs to come first for us as fans. We need to feel that love again, because even this year, sorry to interject on what you're saying, Reese, but this year I felt the most disconnected I've ever felt from Tottenham Hotspurs, and that's because of obviously JOSÉ playing there, but it's also because of the footballing decisions from the board and just how they're treating us. It doesn't feel like we're part of it anymore. It's always about where the money's coming from and the next, monetary decision, instead of what the people that actually made the club and are there for the club. It always feels like they're second, third, or fourth down the line now.
And you kind of know something's bad when a Manchester United fan, a Liverpool fan, and a Spurs fan all sit on a podcast and agree with something.
Common ground being found finally.
Yeah, even so bad that even football Twitter agrees on something for once.
Yeah, everyone's coming together. It's crazy, isn't it? Literally everyone's coming together, which is, I know you made a joke about it, but I've never seen fans so united before in such a, it's quite interesting. I've never seen everyone agree on something in such, unison until now. So yeah, it just goes to show how wrong they've got this.
It is crazy. I mean, like Patrick says, well, with Daniel Levy, as a United fan, we have to sit there and watch Ed Woodward make similar decisions. Daniel Levy and Woodward have just kind of been like the Bond villains, really, of the Premier League, and you watch them make consistently the wrong calls, and you're there thinking, who on earth is around you saying that, it's just a team of yes men, really. And I think that's kind of what's brought us to this stage now. But everyone watching this podcast, if you're watching from Patrick's channel over at Views TV Official, if you come over to us, if you're an average pundit, subscribe and watching with us. We want to know your opinions, guys. As always, you can get a hold of us on Facebook and Instagram at The Average Pundits, and you can get a hold of us on Twitter at Pundits Average. And if you're listening to this on streaming services, please give us a little follow and a like and a subscribe on YouTube, as always. But Patrick, where can anyone listening to this find your socials, find the channel? Let them know.
Yeah, I'm on Views TV Official, so VIEWS TV as in, and then official, spelled the normal way. And my Twitter handle is Patrick Tyrant, so PATRICK and then TYRANT. Give me a follow. I like to interact with all the fans. We banter, we go at each other, we have fun, but we also talk sense as well. So yeah, and give our channel a follow and a like. We put out good content all the time, and it's always a pleasure chopping it up with like-minded football fans, no matter who you support.
There we go, guys. Another fantastic episode. Reese, as always, thank you very much for joining me as well, mate.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Patrick. I can't think of a better guy to have had on this week's podcast. So thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully the listeners have enjoyed listening to your expert opinions on the matter.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on once again. It's been a pleasure, and we'll get you guys on our channel as well. That'll be fun, and appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
We look forward to it, and thank you very much as always, guys, and we will see you next time.
For the latest football content, subscribe to The Average Pundits on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite streaming service and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.